No need, no need for sorrow, Ty. I'm always personally very happy to hear your wisdom, so thank you for sharing it. Hi, everyone. I'm Brother River. Um, in Vietnamese, my name is Tik On Tom, or as you may know, Thai means teacher, so that can apply to anyone that is a monastic uh, that so chooses to use that. But you can call me Brother River if you'd like. Taikozen asked that we chat about the Heart Sutra. I think in order to do that, we need to hear the Heart Sutra. So I have two favors to ask of you. One is, if you have any devices or windows open that will distract you, go ahead and close those, or turn your phones on mute and give them a rest. We're giving ourselves a rest this morning, so we might as well give our devices some rest too. My second favor is to please look at your screen to see if you are on mute. And if you are not, please mute yourself. This will help us not have feedback. If you're familiar with the Heart Sutra, feel free to recite along at home. If you are confused by the Heart Sutra, do not read along. Instead, put your book away, close your eyes, and allow these words to simply wash over you. A little bit of setup before I share the Heart Sutra. The Heart Sutra is a dialogue. It's a dialogue between Avalokiteshvara Bodhisattva, or you may be more familiar with her as Guan Yin, the Bodhisattva of great compassion. In Vietnamese, we pronounce her name Guan Te Am Botat, or Guan Am Botat. So it's a dialogue between her and Shariputra, one of the Buddha's closest monks. And so she's explaining the nature of our practice to Shariputra, which he's rather confused. So this is her explaining our practice to him. So I'm going to read her words, and then we'll just kind of chat about some of the concepts in it. And hopefully, fingers crossed, hopefully this morning you will leave this conversation with this a little bit less mystifying. Hopefully we'll be able to demystify it a little bit. So go ahead and let these words wash over you. Maha Prajna Hridaya Paramita Sutra. Avalokiteshvara Bodhisattva, when deeply practicing Prajnaparamita, clearly saw that all five aggregates are empty, and thus relieved all suffering. Shariputra form does not differ from emptiness. Emptiness does not differ from form. Form itself is emptiness. Emptiness itself form. Sensations, perceptions, formations, and consciousness are also like this. Shariputra, all dharmas are marked by emptiness. They neither arise nor cease, are neither defiled nor pure, neither increased nor decreased. Therefore, given emptiness, there is no form, no sensation, no perception, no formation, no consciousness, no eyes, no ears, no nose, no tongue, no body, no mind, no sight, no sound, no smell, no taste, no touch, no object of mind, no realm of sight, no realm of mind, consciousness. There's neither ignorance nor extinction of ignorance, neither old age and death nor extinction of old age and death, no suffering, no cause, no cessation, no path, no knowledge, and no attainment. With nothing to attain, a bodhisattva relies on prajnaparamita, and thus the mind is without hindrance. Without hindrance there is no fear. Far beyond all inverted views one realizes nirvana. All Buddhas of past, present, and future rely on prajnaparamita, and thereby attain unsurpassed, complete, perfect enlightenment. Therefore know the prajnaparamita as the great miraculous mantra, the supreme mantra, the great bright mantra, the incomparable mantra which removes all suffering and is true, not false. Therefore we proclaim the prajnaparamita mantra, the mantra that says, Gate, gate, pada, gate, pada, samgate, bodhisvaha. Gate, gate, pada, gate, pada, samgate, bodhisvaha. Gate, gate, pada, gate, pada, samgate, bodhisvaha. Thank you, friends, for joining in that practice. I am in no way an expert on this sutra, however, it is a sutra that I love. Before we get into it, I want to share that when I first started really diving into this practice, when I chose to become a monastic, I've also found this terribly confusing. I came to my teacher, the Venerable Thich Tom Min, or Thai Jeff, and I said, I struggle with this one, and he heard me, and we kind of chatted about it, and he encouraged me to read it regularly. I took that to heart, and so I recited it every morning for about 12 months, give or take. And I found that something happened in that process. One was I recognized the words that were actually being said, which is pretty remarkable. But more importantly, I saw how it applied to my life. I continue to recite it most mornings, not every morning, but most mornings, and I found that repetition of these words has, for myself, helped drive it in and make it accessible in a way that otherwise felt esoteric, to use your word, Reverend Scott. At one point it felt hidden, it felt mystical, which of course there's nothing wrong with mystical things or hidden things, but this is an accessible practice, an accessible concepts. So let's dig in. Let's look at the skeleton of the Heart Sutra. Of course, the Heart Sutra is an excerpt from a larger sutra, the Lotus Sutra, if I remember correctly. And it is one portion of a much larger thing, sort of like how, if you're familiar with Hinduism, the Bhagavad Gita is one portion of a much larger book, the Mahabharata. Or Ezekiel is one book of the larger Bible, right? So this is not to say, I'm not trying to compare it to the Bible, but I'm just saying it is one portion of a much larger collection of philosophy. So what is being said here? Well, let's dig in and let's bring in a little bit more modern language to it. So emptiness, shunyata, this is kind of a core structure of this. What is emptiness? I recently heard someone in our check-in talk about the confusion around this idea of the losing of the self. What does that mean? Well, the concept of emptiness, I think, is both beautiful and terribly confusing, and I wish that we could kind of reframe that in a more accessible way. So let's do that this morning.
Emptiness is not void. I'm going to repeat myself. Emptiness is not void, meaning emptiness is not the absence of something. Instead, it is the totality of everything. That, in and of itself, is very confusing and probably sounds esoteric. So let me break it down. Let's look at it this way. If we look at a rose bush, it's very easy to look at a rose bush and go, ah, the roses, and get attached to the absolutely luscious, delicious roses. We can fall into their smell and their color and their texture and the way the light hits them. It's very easy to fall in love with the roses and forget the rest of the plant. The thorns, the stems, the leaves, the root system, the worms aerating the soil, the compost, all of the rotting nuts that the squirrels bury underneath it. Maybe the fertilizer in the water that you add to it, the love that you have for that rose bush that you go out and you water it every morning. All of those are present within that singular rose. This rose is empty of an isolated rose nature. The rose is because of everything else. Without the little worms, without you, without the air, yada yada yada, there is no rose. So when we say empty, it can feel kind of scary. It can feel almost nihilistic. It isn't. The concept of emptiness can more accurately be described as wholeness. Let's break it down even further. The 5 aggregates, these are what make up a you, what make up a me. Everything that we identify as a Brother River, or a Jesus, or a Reverend Scott, everything that we have that makes us up are, in the Buddhist idea, these things. Matter, or form, in this context. Form, we can say matter, right? Material. Things we can touch. Sensations. Oh, I feel that if I pinch myself. Perceptions. Oh, the way I can see the world, the way I can perceive of a concept like emptiness. Formations, mental formations, like our Venerable Taikosen mentioned, the mental formations of whether these people got it figured out or these people don't, really doesn't matter. That's our own bias or our own prejudice or our own mental formations, right? And our consciousness, the awareness of awareness. To quote Bodhidharma, the mind pointing at the mind. I won't go down another esoteric hole, but all of these in connection with one another make up a you, or a me. Therefore, they are empty of an individual self, meaning that if I remove matter from the equation, there can be no sensation, perception, formation, or consciousness. If I remove consciousness, there can be no perception, sensations, right? They inter-are. So emptiness is interbeing. Emptiness is whole. Lastly, before we step away from emptiness, I want you to consider a bowl. In this case, it's a bell, but it's also a bowl. If you look at this, it looks empty, right? This thing is fuller than you could possibly imagine. The entire cosmos is right here. Every particle that makes this up is present because something else is. We can see exploding stars, the beginnings of solar systems, right here in this little bowl. We can see ancestors, Egyptian kitty cats that were worshipped as gods, diverted rivers. We can see the gnarled hands of a craftsperson that crafted this, I believe, somewhere in China or Taiwan. We can see the mountain where hikers climb to collect the rare earth materials to make the beautiful red ink that was so beautifully brushed onto this. This is empty of just a bowl. This is because of everything else. If we don't have craftspeople, if we don't have rivers or mountains or yada yada yada, we can't have a bell. When Kuan Yin or Avalokiteshvara says that the 5 aggregates are empty, what she's saying is that if you remove one, the others cannot be. If you remove 4 of them, that one can't be, right? When she talks about dharmas being marked by emptiness, dharmas is an interesting word because we can interpret it as teachings. We can also interpret it as phenomena or things that are taking place. So I like to interpret this particular portion as all phenomena are empty, meaning that all phenomena are taking place because of everything else. That sounds complex, but it really isn't. One last thing on emptiness. Let's consider a candle. The fire of this candle looks very much alive. However, the conditions for the fire have been present the whole time. Before it came to life, it was present in other forms. In the sulfur of the match, in the pine tree that was whittled down into the match, in my hand that struck it, in the bees that collected the nectar to make this gorgeous wax. However, something took place. The conditions came together in such a way, under the right circumstances, where all of a sudden the match was struck and it lit the wick. This is a temporary manifestation of something that exists everywhere else. When it's gone, where does it go? Well, it can't go anywhere because it's always there. Meaning that the smoke goes to a cloud that becomes rain, that feeds a river, that feeds a rosebush, that composts, is broken down over millions of years, later becomes sulfuric deposits, only to become a match again to light another candle. Everything is present in this moment. Now, the conditions have to be such to make it manifest itself in that temporary form, but it's taking place everywhere else. If we remove the sulfur or my hand or the desire for fire, the flame will not manifest in that moment. So it is empty of a self. It's reliant on other conditions. So I want to dig in a little bit deeper into this. It talks about no ignorance or extinction of ignorance, neither death nor birth. It even says no knowledge and no attainment. Let's dig into that a little bit. No ignorance nor extinction of ignorance, meaning that if we look into the nature of ignorance, it is something that is nothing more than a beautiful opportunity for better comprehension. Knowledge is not something that is absolute in attainment, meaning that you can absolutely have terrific understanding and you will continue to learn and remain ignorant. If you convince yourself into believing that you are not ignorant in any way, then you probably have to work a lot harder. No attainment, meaning that even the attachment to attainment is in and of itself a hindrance. We have to be careful to not overly attach to even the desired outcome of attainment. Yes, awakening is the goal. However, we mustn't get overly attached to the goal. As the venerable teacher Yoda once said, don't get attached to the horizon. Pay attention to where you are right here at this very moment. Remember that everything is taking place at every time, and we have an opportunity for awakening right here at this very moment. We don't have to wait. We just simply have to look inward into the nature of what is a me. Well, what is a me is because of a you, or this, that, and the other. And it doesn't have to be esoteric. It can be as simple as this. Patricia, I'm going to pick on you. Every week on our Sunday group, Patricia brings what is called a perspective of the day. She comes and she expends the emotional energy to collect this piece of wisdom, and then she brings it to the group and recites it, a different one every week. And that leaves an imprint. Someday, I hope it's many, many, many years from now, but someday Patricia will pass away. And when she does, those of us in that group will carry her wisdom in our hearts, and will pay that wisdom forward to everyone that we meet, our friends. Patricia will always live in the hearts of people like myself. We are. Lastly, I want to share one more perspective around this that I think is incredibly important that Avalokiteshvara or Guanyin is talking about. And I think that this is one that we may all find deeply helpful. And I want to make it a little bit about me for a second here, if I may. This is the one that was transformative for me. This perspective is what changed everything for me in this practice. And that's why I'm kind of in love with this sutra. There's something that she says in here that is, I think, very profound, and I want to find her exact words here. Here we go. Shariputra, she's speaking to Shariputra here. Shariputra, all dharmas are marked by emptiness. They neither arise nor cease. They are neither defiled nor pure. Okay, what is she saying here? I'm going to tell you how I interpret this, and of course you may have a different perspective, and I think that's terrific, and I encourage you to have that, and I look forward to hearing your perspectives. But let me share mine with you, if I may. Because all phenomena are empty of a singularity, they're empty of a singular self, as it were, they're interdependent upon everything else, which means nothing comes from nothing, and nothing goes to nothing. As our dear Christian friends would say, ashes to ashes, dust to dust. Meaning that it's all there. Another venerable teacher, Carl Sagan, once said, "Look, we're all but star stuff." Same thing. I want to break that down real quickly before we do some meditation. And of course, open it up for any conversation, because I think that would be terrific. Let's go back to our dear rosebush. It's a beautiful summer's morning. The sun has just risen. The dew on the grass is turning to light, misty fog underfoot. You stand in front of your beloved rosebush. You've cared for this rosebush for 20 years. It was your mother's rosebush, and she gave it to you. You care for it as if it is a family member. You lean in and you cup your hands gently around a gorgeous rose, inhaling its perfume, allowing it to fill your whole body with its essence. You're struck by its purity. Later that day, as you've stepped away from your rose bush to do other yard works, you take all your vegetables and fruit that you've cut down into small pieces and you take it out to your compost pile, which is also steaming, but for a different reason. You come up near your compost pile with your pitchfork and you turn it, pouring all of your compostable material into its hot, heated, rancid core. Its stench is overwhelming, blowing you back with it's visceral. You see, it's very easy for us to fall in love with the rose. However, it's very difficult to see that the rose is right there in the compost pile, and it has been the whole time. And it's even harder to recognize that the compost is right there in the scent of your rose. You see, it's only a matter of weeks before your beautiful rose turns into compost. It's only a matter of weeks or months that your compost turns into a rose. They are not separate. They are empty of a singularity. They are empty of a single self. The compost is your rose. The rose is your compost. They are neither defiled nor pure. They neither increase nor decrease. There is neither death nor birth. And that visceral rejection of the compost pile is that mental formation. Our attachment and romance with that rose is our mental formations and attachment. This practice is to recognize the interbeing or the emptiness of each situation. And this sutra is the tool to help us get there. This is how I interpret the Heart Sutra, and I just shared a ton of words with you. So I'd love to open it up for conversation, questions, anything at all. Please do not feel shy. Jump right in.
Hi, how are you? This is Hans.
Hi, Hans. How are you?
I very much appreciated your talk. Very, very much. One of the things that I think about or thought about when you were talking is about the impact of the emotional bond. Like you gave the example of the rose. If someone equates roses to love and beauty versus someone who's worked with roses and has continuously had his fingers pricked by the rose thorns, there's a different emotional bond or a different emotion that ensues from that relationship. And so we can extend that to the dharmas, as I know, dharmas with a small d, the phenomenon. that whatever we've been exposed to in our attachment can be either a negative attachment and aversion or a positive attachment and attraction. And that in itself becomes a form of, in the extreme, can become a form of bondage or dependence, and negative dependence, positive dependence. And so to me, the Heart Sutra can give me the idea, or I can develop through cultivation, that it's the emotion that gets in the way. And I don't know what you think of that, and I'll put myself on mute.
Thank you, Hans. I appreciate that. May I ask a clarifying question? Can you explain how the emotion gets in the way for me?
So in the example of the rose, or any other thing where there's a strong aversion to something or a strong attachment, a like, a need, a desire, that the emotion gets to allows us to fathom or understand the depth of the object or the relationship that we it's a form of communication. The problem is when the emotion becomes misguided, it tells us something that it isn't. We have a preconceived notion um, of what we think it is based on the emotion that ensues from something based on experience. And so now we have to be careful that that emotion doesn't get in the way of the true nature of things.
Thank you. I appreciate that clarification. Um, yeah, I mean, I think that's terrific. I think it's a beautiful perspective, Hans. I think that for myself and how I tend to view these things, if we look at the base structure of Buddhism, it's our desire and attachment that is the source of our suffering. It's the source of our great struggle as human beings, is that we cling or we chase. And that can be emotional, it can be physical, it can be all sorts of things. And I think that if we look at the Heart Sutra, it does just what you were saying. It helps us overcome the illusion that things are singular, or to quote Thich Nhat Hanh or the Venerable Thich Nhat Hanh, we are here to awaken from the illusion of separateness, meaning that the aversion or the attraction is our practice. How do we come to equanimity with all things? Thank you, Hans. I appreciate that. Any other perspectives, questions, anything at all? Arthur, thank you for showing us your roses. Very beautiful.